welcome to SAT TV News. I am Shana Esprit, your presenter for today. In our top stories, DFA President speaks on death of footballers, reported police abuse in Bahamas, prosecutors prepare charges against Boston Marathon bombers, and in sports, Windward celebrate much needed victory. Details of this will follow.
No child from 2012 onwards should be born with HIV. Even if you infected with HIV, you're still a human being. They're still living, they're still breathing, so we gotta love and respect them. Darren Sammy here endorsing the Live Up campaign. 2012, from now on, no Caribbean child born with HIV. We're moving forward, we're educating our people, and it's all about love, protect, respect.
Live up, shout, live up, live up.
Students from the Goodwill Primary School were told of the importance of planting trees as they celebrated World Earth Day on Monday 22nd. The students were encouraged to keep the nature island of Dominica clean, pristine, and green. They were also educated on the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle by reducing the amount of waste generated. Reuse waste and recycling materials through combustion is beneficial in maintaining a clean and healthy environment. Ms. Kathleen Coffey from the Discover Dominica Authority said World Earth Day is being held globally in support of environmental protection. She stated the theme for this year is the face of climate change, where it seeks to place a human face to the dangers associated with global climate change.
The campaign is calling for people of all nationalities, including us here in Dominica, to act now and to organize events on Earth Day to help prevent the dangerous impacts associated with it. We have to recognize that things are happening, as our principal told you earlier. Look at the disaster we had on Friday. All that is as a result of climate change. In the past, our grandmother would tell us we would have heavy rains like that only during the hurricane season. It is not here yet, and look at the disaster that's caused.
Ms. Coffey urged students and adults to play their part in preserving the environment by conserving water and watering plants. The earth is what we all have in common, said Kimisha Thomas, a representative from the Environmental Coordinating Unit. She advised the students to be reminded of their moral obligation to take care of the environment. She said climate change is the most difficult environmental challenge of our time.
The burning of fossil fuels for energy, for transport and other activities release greenhouse gases into the atmosphere at a rate that has become more and more increasingly difficult for nature to keep up with. But climate change is also, if not the most severe challenge to development and sustainable development of our time.
Mr. Francisco Maffei from the Forestry Division gave a more technical insight on what is forestry.
The forest is a vegetative cover of plants over the earth. We all know what are plants, right? Now, these plants plays a vital role in our day-to-day activities, which are simple: respiration, breathing. We need the plants in order to get oxygen. Now, oxygen is what we need to breathe, which assists in all the metabolic activities within our human system. Now, for example, the carbon dioxide, the carbon which the transports expels into the air through pollution, which is all that is all over the city, the country, and the world.
He said plants are important because it helps trap all the pollution and recycles it into oxygen. Mr. Maffei said without plants, there will be no survival of humans. He said that deforestation is responsible for heat increase and the rise of sea levels. In more news, the journal's aim is to publish evidence based on comprehensive printed health information for public health education to enable and motivate all who read. Ms. Rosie Felix, a healthcare professional and the chief editor of the recently launched health journal entitled Roses and Thorns. She stated the journal will also aid the public in making informed health decisions.
We health professionals very often we like to tell you what to do and we don't do. So by writing it is actually challenging us to, hey, it's for us too. Its scope shall include themes within the context of health and healthcare and health problems and interventions across all disciplines and settings. It shall also publish articles within the context of health professionals' roles and responsibilities, patient, client, and family rights, responsibilities and experiences, as well as healthcare ethics and policy. It shall both complement and complain.
Her journal, which she worked on with her husband, Mr. Rani Felix, will also expose women and their families to information which taught her nursing students. Ms. Felix said she discovered both old and new, but very relevant evidence-based information about natural normal childbirth and medicalized birth, which she wanted to share with childbearing women and their families. She also wanted to share the information in a manner to empower them to defend themselves against unnecessary physical and psychological trauma commonly experienced during childbirth.
Additionally, health professionals will use this medium to share research findings with the public on whom they have carried out their research. How many of you have been a participant in the research done by healthcare professionals and you never see or hear of the findings of this research? I'd hope my colleagues will join me in sharing the research, and I have started by example. The journal will not pose any competition or any publication nationally because of its aims and scope. While there are many health journals published by health professionals internationally, their level and content are mostly for health professionals like themselves.
Mrs. Felix noted that the title of the journal, Roses and Thorns, though unusual, was deliberate in order to draw the attention of the public. It is meant to assist them in making critical decisions concerning the roses, which make them blossom, and the thorns which make them sick or threaten their lives. Registrar at the Dominica State, Mrs. Denise Edwards, who is also a member of the journal's reviewing team, stated, "Although we all know what we should do to take care of ourselves, this journal will serve as a reminder." Dominica Solid Waste Sanitary Landfill and Recyclables Manager, Mr. Marcus Francis, stated, "It is not only useful for women, but men as well."
But not only is the content relevant to people of all age groups, but I also find that it addresses relevant and contemporary subjects, like the NCD's rights of women. It deals with subject matters, the occupational health and safety issue, that are relevant, that are contemporary in their nature, and that will help us appreciate some of the things that are around us, inform us, and to help us grapple and deal with the challenges that are found therein. So the content is relevant to all peoples, but it addresses and deals with contemporary subject matters. And I also found that it provides up-to-date info. There is reference made to international standards and international pursuits of 2013, and I found that very, very relevant. So that it shows that it is up to date, it is on the cutting edge of what is going on around us.
Mr. Francis added, "The content of the journal is clear, precise, and accurate, which is vital for the continuation of the journal. Roses and Thorns will be published on a quarterly basis, and this first issue features an exclusive interview with Pan American Health Organization Director Dr. Carissa Etienne." In more stories, many insurance officials were addressed by Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit at the Arawak House of Culture on the 22nd of April, where Caribbean Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors held its 27th Annual Congress under the theme Life's Blessing. Mr. Skerrit commended CARIFA for the leadership demonstrated for the insurance industry. He said he believes in strong regulations because without it, there can be many difficulties.
The cost of medical services in the region and the world is prohibitive to many, many families in our region. And even those of us who may have health insurance, and depending on the arrangements you have with health insurance, you may even find yourself in some difficulties. I have seen people with $1 million in the bank accounts end up having zero because of a health condition. And how do we cater for those of us who are unable to afford health insurance?
He encouraged CARIFA, governments, and the trade unions to meet and discuss ways a model or scheme can be developed to benefit the entire population with regards to insurance. According to the Prime Minister, the cost of medical services in the region and the world is prohibitive to many families. Mr. Skerrit noted governments are not financially capable to provide the extent of medical services that its citizens need nationally and regionally.
In every of our countries, everyone, with no exception, governments, and in fact you, the insurance friends, have to airlift people out of the region for medical services. And you, more than anybody else, also see the cost to you as insurance people. And because we're not taking care of ourselves, we do not exercise as often as we should, and we do not eat properly or do not maintain healthy lifestyles. Our population is becoming a very challenging burden on the fiscal situation in our region.
Honorable Justina Charles, Minister for Culture, Youth and Sports, shared her insurance experience and considered it a blessing. She stated that life insurance had become a prerequisite to be allowed to source funding from other financial institutions.
I never once thought that her work was to me and my children a blessing in disguise. Throughout the time of my husband's illness, she reminded me that if anything, I would have to speak with her. This statement meant nothing to me then, because I saw my husband as one who was full of life, and that death was far from my imagination.
Through tears, Mrs. Charles said in 2004, when her husband died suddenly, the pain of that loss was tremendous.
In less than 2 months following the death of my husband, my house loan was cleared. Thanks to Mrs. Cheryl Roll, Director of Surgical Insurance, for her promptness, efficiency, and effectiveness with which she carried out her duties. Imagine being petrified by loan like I am, having to pay over $300,000 for house mortgage with a monthly salary that was almost equivalent to the monthly bank installment.
She was a clear testimony of how life insurance saved her family. She said an insurance policy is worth spending on. In more stories, it was not a regular day of worship for the parishioners of the St. Alphonsus Catholic Church on Sunday 21st. Many mourners, football officials, friends and family alike gathered to mourn the death of Mr. Kurt Hector and Mr. Noran John Hope, who lost their lives in a tragic accident on Friday 19th April. Many individuals are still trying to recuperate from the tragedy, which unexpectedly took our nation by surprise. What better way to ease their sorrow and heartache but by prayer? Monsignor Reginald Thomas led Sunday's Mass and encouraged the congregation to attend church and pray often, because the Almighty Father will come for us when we least expect Him.
For the time they have not been good to one another, for the time that faith recognizes the brother or sister as a one brother and sister, for the time you have not been faithful to good neighborliness, for the time you have been so negative to each other, we have lacked a family lives. For the time you have failed to be reconciled.
He admonished the worshippers to be good to one another and stated for all the times we have done wrong, we should ask God for His mercy. There was a mood of sadness and reflection as the choir sang their rendition, Lord Have Mercy. life has its ups and downs, and in our daily transactions, we realize there is a constant struggle between the light and the darkness. He reminded us that though the darkness may seem to control the light will overpower the darkness.
Evening for two so-called national heroes have gone to Jamaica. We no longer see them again, but we will remember them, and they will spur us to great things. They'll cause us to remember man poses, God disposes, and when we say goodbye, there is goodbye for war and adieu. When we say goodbye, those words must not be taken for granted.
He ended the sermon by saying everyone should recognize that God is in control of their lives and we should put our trust in Him. In more stories, the news of the deaths came as a shock to me while attending the CFU CONACAF Congress in Panama City in Panama last week. These were the words of Mr. Glenn Etienne, President of the Dominica Football Association, following the deaths of national coach Mr. Kurt Hector and a national player Mr. Noran John Hope, who died in a vehicular accident on Friday, April 19, 2013. Mr. Etienne, in his capacity on behalf of the board and management of the DFA, extended profound condolences to the family and friends of the deceased, who can be regarded as two fallen heroes.
At this time, let us thank the Almighty Father for Joycelyn Prince, who is battling for his life at the Princess Margaret Hospital. It is truly by divine intervention that he is alive today. We trust and pray that his recovery will be a speedy one and that he will be back with us in no time. Our fallen heroes, national coach Kurt Hector and debutant Noran John Hope, are true heroes in every sense of the word, since they died with their boots on, literally. They died in the process of going to do what they loved. Kurt Hector was a very dedicated coach and one who gave his all. He took his job seriously and always strived to make his players better. As a former national player, Kurt worked hard when representing his country, and his commitment was unquestioned and unchallenged.
Mr. Hector has left a void in the football family that will be difficult to fill, said Mr. Etienne. He said Mr. John Hope was happy to have been selected to play for the national team, having graduated from youth football, and as such, his mannerisms and discipline will forever be etched in our hearts, and his good work ethics is one that we should emulate. The DFA president says the next few days will be difficult for the association. However, they will focus their efforts on positive thoughts, as this is what Mr. Hector and Mr. John Hope would have wanted. We must also focus on efforts on Mr. Joycelyn Prince, who is still not out of the woods, and we must more than ever pray for his speedy recovery and wisdom for the doctors working with him, he added.
The sport of football in Dominica has lost two of its finest, and certainly the sport will not be the same. To the members of the national team, let me express profound gratitude to you for your courage and strength during this difficult time. You have demonstrated maturity, good statesmanship and sportsmanship, and for that, you are all proud of you. Special thanks must also be extended to the various individuals and organizations which were on the scene and assisted in one way or the other. Truly, this was a very great effort and must not go unnoticed. This is not a time for rumor mill to be charming rapidly. Let me call on those who are bent on mischief and deceit from such practice, as this does not help the situation. It only brings more pain and anguish to the family members of those concerned.
Mr. Etienne noted in the coming days the DFA will announce how it intends to honor the memories of the deceased men. He said the men were taken from us like a thief in the night, and we are left without their talent, and we may never completely recover from such a loss. Public Relations Officer of the DFA, Mr. Gerald George, stated, Mr. Prince has made some improvements thus far from when he was first admitted to the Princess Margaret Hospital.
Joycelyn has begun breathing on his own, and it is hoped that today that they can remove the tube so he can begin to talk, because they did not want him talking for the past days since he has been at the hospital. just so that he can get the sufficient rest and that the healing process can take place. He suffered multiple damages to some of his organs. These are being improved. These organs are being improved, and we hope for the best that he really pulled through. So we are asking all Dominicans to pray for him.
Mr. George stated the relevant authorities should consider affording the men with an official funeral, as they died in the line of duty going to represent their country, which they were very excited about. He noted the Minister of Culture, Youth and Sports, Honorable Justina Charles, has been very supportive to the family of the deceased and the DFA throughout this difficult time, which they appreciate. A number of villages were negatively affected over this weekend following heavy rainfall as a result of a trough system, which Mr. Marshall Alexander, weather forecaster, explains further.
A trough system is a system of low pressure, and it is responsible for, it acts like a vacuum by causing the rise of moisture. All right, when you have the rise of moisture, you have condensation taking place, and then you have the formation of clouds. So that is what we're experiencing right now. It's an upper level trough, which is located just east of the island chain, and it's causing a lot of cloudiness and showers across that area.
As a result of this trough system battering Dominica with heavy rainfall, a number of communities experienced landslides, falling rocks, and damaged roads. The town of Portsmouth was hit severely as a larger section was flooded, causing frequent interruptions in their water supply. Traffic was interrupted on the Lale Coco Highway near Louvière as there were 2 landslides in that area. This brought down large boulders, mud, and other debris which had been cleared by heavy equipment to resume the flow of traffic. However, some impatient motorists who felt their vehicle could pass made their way over some of the debris. Landslides were also reported in Castle Bruce, Lapin, and other communities. Mr. Kelvin Roll, who owns most of the land in Hillsborough Estate, located in Layu, said the rain undermined and washed away about 2 to 3 acres of his property, which is a major loss to him.
The river used to flow on both sides of T Island, and now what happened when the river flooded, some of the operators dug through T Island, which is private land. They dug through T Island, they widened it on one side, and then it doesn't come around, so the current is not adjusted. It comes full force onto the land, and I maybe have around 2-3 acres of land in the river right now, and I just think it's because of the operators, maybe directed by the Ministry of Public Works, rediverting the river and causing the river to flow only on one side, where it used to flow on both sides of T Island.
Mr. Roll noted the rediversion of the river has also caused his cousin, Mr. Philip Roll, who operates Wacky Rollers in the area, to lose a significant portion of his property, including a museum and an amusement park, following the heavy rainfall.
Because the T Island has been, when you look at all the old maps of Dominica going back through 300 years, T Island is always there, and they dug the foundation of T Island. So the river now comes down straight, and it's just going to, and it's going to keep on going unless they put somebody comes and put some rock armor to hold back to prevent it from going back. Because even these mango trees are over 100 years old, and they have all gone down into the river. There's nothing to prevent it from eating away the whole area.
He added the rediversion of the river has not done any justice for him, and the relevant persons, including engineers, should ensure they contact residents and landowners before taking on such projects. Even animals were affected by the wet weather, as some cats sought shelter underneath a parked car on the Dame Eugenia Charles Boulevard. By the looks of their faces, they did not seem pleased with their temporary accommodation, which was a far cry from a 5-star hotel. The residents of Layu were safe this time, as the river, although high, did not overflow its banks. As in previous conditions, the force of the river, however, did damage a power line. A recently constructed river wall was instrumental in preventing an area prone to flooding in Massac from floodwater, which normally floods a nearby garage. And in court news, a national of France can consider herself lucky as she only received a small fine after pleading guilty to possession of cannabis when she appeared before Roseau magistrate Evelina Baptiste on Monday, April 22nd. According to the facts of the case read by Police Prosecutor Inspector Claude Weeks at 4:15 p.m. on Saturday, April 20th, the drug squad received a call from the Roseau Ferry Terminal security officer and went to investigate. Upon arrival, the investigating officer met with the security officers at the terminal, who introduced him to the French national. He also handed over a cigarette box which had 2 clear plastic bags containing what appeared to be cannabis found in the defendant's luggage. When the investigating officer questioned the defendant as to why she had the cannabis, she replied, "This is cannabis I forgot in my bag." She was then cautioned and arrested and the alleged cannabis seized. The substance, weighing 5 grams, later tested positive for cannabis. In mitigation, the defendant stated she has been working in Martinique for 4 months. She came to Dominica for a 3-day vacation and forgot she had the cannabis in her bag. She said she is very sorry and was not aware of the laws of Dominica. She was sentenced to pay $300 forthwith or sentenced to 2 weeks imprisonment. This has been the local segment of the news. Coming up next, regional highlights.